Nothing about the saber-tooth is a tiger. You think you know a predator? You are profoundly wrong. This structure, this specialized weapon, is not unique to the Cenozoic era. It is not a fleeting mistake of mammalian evolution. It is a geological constant. A blueprint that returns. We look at the sleek menace of Smilodon populator, weight pushing 470 kilograms, and assume that is the zenith of the idea. We assume the weapon, the massive, bone-piercing canine, is a singular event. It is not. It is a convergent apocalypse. Look back. 272 million years ago. The Permian air thickens with volcanic ash. The first true architects of the Fong appear, the Gorgonopsians. Therapsids, mammal-like reptiles, already building a tool too perfect for their time. Their jaws housed incisors that terminated in blades longer than a human forearm. Inostrancevia, the largest, stretched 3.5 meters of primeval horror across the swamp. It did not chase. It did not grapple. It delivered a single, definitive incision. The myth shatters here. The saber-tooth is not one creature. It is 5 separate evolutionary experiments, birthed across 3 distinct geological epochs, all converging on the same lethal geometry. How does life engineer such a precise weapon repeatedly, from disparate genetic stock? We see the structure. The physics. But we have not yet looked inside the chassis. The secret of the saber-tooth is not the tooth itself. It is the catastrophic failure of the jaw that holds it. The bite force is weaker than a modern lion. The skull geometry cannot sustain prolonged struggle. These great fangs are not designed for crushing bone. They are designed for penetration, for a rapid, surgical violation of deep tissue. The creature cannot chew. It relies on one strike. But what structural failure allows such leverage? We must dismantle the biological machine to see the fault lines in its design. The true horror lies in the musculature that anchors this specialized weaponry. Microchapter A, the weaponry. Consider the Neimaravids, creatures that rose millions of years after the Gorgonopsians vanished. Their upper canines were not teeth in the way you define them. They were reinforced tungsten cutter bits. Precision-engineered blades. They needed superior bracing in the jaw architecture to survive the deployment. These tools were calibrated for deep penetration into armored targets. The animal does not bite. It stabs. It anchors. Look at the biomechanics of the strike. The jaw mechanism unlocks beyond the 90-degree angle of standard carnivores. This hyperextension creates leverage. It converts linear velocity into focused, downward kinetic energy. The serrations on some species act not like steak knives, but like saw blades designed for shearing fascia and rupturing the hydrostatic support of large herbivores. The shear length demands perfect alignment upon impact. A slight miscalculation. A sudden twitch from the prey. The leverage shifts. The resulting torque becomes catastrophic. The great tooth snaps clean from the socket. A surgical tool becomes a useless shard of calcium. Microchapter B, the sensorium. How does a predator committing to a near-suicidal single-strike attack ensure impact? It must perceive the environment with near-absolute clarity, filtering out every anomaly except the fatal vector. The Macaroidinae, for example, developed hyper-acute vision. We assume field acuity. Nocturnal performance near peak levels. But depth perception in the chaos of deep brush required more than light collection. Their eye structure favors rapid target acquisition over sustained light gathering. They perceive movement in distinct frames, not a continuous flow. This system bypasses the slow computation of the cerebrum. It is a direct feed. A dedicated sensor array. Imagine military-grade radar sweeping the perimeter. They read the world not as continuous information, but as immediate threats registered on a fixed grid. Their world is a series of high-contrast silhouettes against the gloom of ancient forests. This is not natural selection adapting vision. This is evolutionary engineering demanding dedicated hardware for the kill switch. Microchapter C, the internal chassis. Now we breach the skin, past the thick hide of their prey. The X-ray view reveals the most terrifying aspect, the forelimb architecture of the macroidini. The skeletal structure here is disproportionate. The scapula anchors immense musculature. This is not about running speed. This is about pinning power. To hold a target the size of an early rhino species, the animal must possess the hydraulic strength to resist tons of desperate, thrashing momentum. You see the large pectorals and deltoids. They do not function as mere accelerators. They are structural dampeners. They absorb the shock wave of the impact itself, preventing self-inflicted injury. The fluid dynamics within the limbs are stressed. Their hemolymph circulates under intense pressure, keeping the muscle fibers rigid, resisting tearing. This entire biological chassis is calibrated around the success of the canine breach. If the teeth fail to penetrate armor, the entire system is compromised. The paralysis of the strike becomes the paralysis of the attacker. This is the paradox solved. The specialized weapon demands a specialized, fragile support structure. The forge of deep time continues its relentless cycle. The Gorgonopsians met their end when the Permian Triassic extinction flooded the world with killing gas. A catastrophic environmental shift rendered their perfectly evolved armor-piercing tools obsolete overnight. The environment changed the rules of engagement. The specialized weapon became a liability. Later, the macroidini found their jungle domains drying. The cooling world favored speed, not specialized puncture. Their immense forelimb musculature, so vital for anchoring thick-hided prey, became dead weight in open savanna. The architecture designed for victory became the architecture of deceleration. We examine the atmosphere that shaped these hunters. It is never gentle. The world of the Gorgonopsian was one of crushing heat, a planetary fever dream where methane boiled from the earth. Vision was secondary in that murk. Sound transmission, distorted by density. The tactile feedback of skin tearing through thick, almost fungal-like Permian reptile hide must have been unique. A wet, thick tearing sound. A heavy percussion against hardened collagen. There is no ambient sound of soft forest decay here. Only the hiss of superheated steam. The Smilodon era brought a different forge. A global cooling trend. The world favored grazers that ran further, faster. The great cats, though magnificent, carried the same genetic debt. Their niche was perfect, but the niche itself contracted. The world does not reward perfection. It rewards adaptability across shifting gradients. These 5 separate unlockings of the saber-tooth trait, over 270 million years, prove a horrifying truth about evolution. Extreme specialization is not an endpoint. It is a temporary, brilliant detour. A perfect alignment of biological engineering, available only until the tectonic plates decide otherwise. The creature that masters one environment utterly is the creature most unprepared for the next one. But the deep code remembers. The blueprint is stored. These ancient terrors were masters of a singular, devastating concept. They committed everything to the final, decisive act of violence. They traded redundancy for terminal efficiency. Their entire physiological architecture screamed one command: penetrate. We watch them through the lens of biological history. We catalog the failures. The evolutionary dead ends defined by their own success. We look at our own complex dependency on external technologies. Our infrastructure. Our networks. Our reliance on stable atmospheric conditions.